Hi, I'm going to talk about the most famous equation in the world, E equals mc squared, and how it can be derived using purely classical physics. So no relativity, no different frames of reference, nothing to do with the speed of light being constant, just classical physics. So we start with a thought experiment, and the experiment involves a box. Imagine a box floating in outer space. So there's no gravity acting upon it and there's no friction. A photon is released from one end of the box, and the recoil from that causes the box to move that way. When it hits that end, it stops. So we have the conservation of momentum of the box and the photon. The photon has no mass. This is a crucial point. It doesn't have a mass, but because there's no external force acting on it, and the centre of mass has to stay the same, we assign a mass to the photon, a mass equivalence as Einstein called it. So we have the conservation of momentum, the conservation of the centre of mass, what some people call the centre of gravity. The next part of the thought experiment, we'll deal with what is called the centre of mass of the object. What some people call the centre of gravity, but we're calling it the centre of mass. The centre of mass has to stay the same because there's no external force acting on the box. So this is the formula for the centre of mass. This is it before and this is it after. So the mass of the box times its initial position plus the mass of the photon, its initial position, plus the total mass equals the mass of the box and the difference in the movement plus the mass of the photon and the length of the box. And that's what you need, the conservation of momentum and the conservation of the centre of mass. So we have the conservation of momentum and we have the conservation of the centre of mass, all classical physics, and the rest is algebra, which I will now do. Right, so the first thing we need to do is remember the formula. Mass times velocity equals that's the mass of the box, so the momentum of the box equals the momentum of the photon. So what is velocity? Velocity is change in distance over change in time. The change in time is the time it takes to cross the length of the box divided by its speed, L over C. Now, to get rid of that, you multiply both sides by L over C, and you get m delta x equals EL over C squared. And that's the first part of the algebra. The next part of the algebra, we go back to this, conservation of the centre of mass. And this is the starting point of the photon, which is regarded as zero, so that becomes zero. That cancels with that. And mx1 goes over to that side and becomes negative. So you've got 0 equals, multiply out the brackets, mx1 minus m delta x plus ml minus mx1. mx1 cancels with mx1. That goes over to that side and becomes positive. M delta x equals ml. So m delta x equals ml, but remember we've already shown that m delta x equals el over c squared. L cancels on both sides. Multiply both sides by c squared. That cancels with that. E equals mc squared. Purely with classical physics. Okay, so what have we proved then? We've proved the famous formula, we've derived the most famous formula in the world, E equals mc squared. No relativity, nothing to do with relativity, just classical physics. We could wonder, I suppose, if we're entitled to assign mass to the photon. We could also wonder what the mass of the box would have to be so that it would be moved by the recoil from a photon. So there's something to think about there. But anyway, it's interesting, that's how you do it. E equals mc squared, no relativity. Thanks for watching.